How's it going, guys? Another episode of TW Wrestling Talk here. I'm going to start off by talking about something that kind of, basically came together on SmackDown this past week, and kind of continued on to Raw, this week's Raw, and that is Alberto Del Rio becoming #1 contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. Without a doubt, this is quite a shame to me. So now we're going to have to see, what appears to be Sheamus versus Del Rio again for the third straight pay-per-view. I really don't understand WWE's motive behind this at all, from a business and creative standpoint. Number one, they had him beat Orton clean pretty quickly. If you go through the match, I mean, it was a match that I want to say Orton, half carried, half dominate, kind of not dominated, but Del Rio did not do much at all to Orton, and he beat him. It seemed pretty easily by the end of the match. I mean, one of my main criticisms of Del Rio is, he's just not very intense as a heel. All he really does is punch and kick, and does his submission, his arm lock. Past that, I mean, he just doesn't in the ring. I do not see him having much charisma at all. He's not, not very intense, as I say. Not that athletic. I mean, I don't know. I was really shocked how easily he seemed to beat Orton at the end there of that match on SmackDown. Just kind of disappointed overall with their direction. Not just because I think Del Rio's boring, the way they use him, but I think if they, creatively, there's a lot more that could happen if Orton would have won that match and been the #1 contender. Sure, some people would argue, well, he can't, he's kind of fresh off of suspension still, and but I'm not really concerned with that. I'm more concerned with the strength of the content. Whether a lot of people disagree with it or not, I mean, I care to see, strong WWE content. When it's strong, it's really good stuff. And if they had Orton win and become the new #1 contender, I mean, quite some possibilities, I think, creatively. Maybe he could turn heel. And that could also affect how, they'll change the landscape on SmackDown a bit. Certainly, if, Orton would face Sheamus one-on-one at Night of Champions, and, Sheamus, could perhaps win that, that'd be good for Sheamus. I mean, Sheamus's reign, if you look at it as World Heavyweight Champion, I mean, he beat Daniel Bryan 18 seconds at WrestleMania, beat him again in Extreme Rules. But Daniel Bryan, I mean, that was his first World Heavyweight Championship reign. He's not totally over right now in the WWE. I mean, he's kind of over, but as we see now, he's kind of down a little more in the mid-card. Sort of upper mid-cardish with Kane right now. And he's, he hasn't won much of anything since losing the World Heavyweight Championship. So if you look at it, I mean, he's a guy that, the crowd is into, either way, but he's not quite at that, that level that, guys like Orton are supposed to, tend to be looked at. Other than that, I mean, Sheamus did win a fatal 4-way World Heavyweight Championship match, back it over the limit. But I mean, you know, that's not, you know, there tends to be more to be said when you beat someone big one-on-one. Fatal 4-way, it's a little different. It's a little more situational. And you know, since then, I mean, he hasn't. Sheamus just hasn't really had much legitimate competition. I mean, you know, he did face Ziggler, you know, a couple months back, also, which was decent. But then once again, Ziggler at that point, even still, he's not totally in main event status. You know, he's not totally a staple yet. His Money in the Bank, you know, the idea with his Money in the Bank briefcase is to get him there, and maybe solidify him as a main event staple. But like Daniel Bryan, he's not quite, you know, a consistent main eventer at this point for years to come. Del Rio was, you know, next stop. Not once, but twice, and now 3 times in a row. Again, Del Rio, I mean, I would argue that the crowd doesn't just boo him and his manager just because they're heels, you know, cheap heels, but because they're just flat out not very entertaining. Again, I've said enough about Del Rio's ring work. But, I mean, also, Del Rio, I mean, on the mic, as of late, I mean, this whole thing with him and Sheamus, you know, if anything has been good in this whole story, it's, you know, been on Sheamus's part. Such as, like, when he stole Del Rio's car or whatnot. Del Rio, on the other hand, I mean, all it seems to be with him is him coming out, saying, you're not a real champion, I'm the real champion, you know, whatnot. It's the same old crap, I think, with Del Rio, coming out. And it's just cheap, you know, cheap heel stuff. It's not, there's nothing, you know, that I see in Del Rio's heel character at all right now. I think, you know, he could use a definite refinement. Well, I feel he could, you know, he could either be, you know, moved down to mid card or just off TV for some time, because he just is not over with me. He's not over with a lot of people, just because they can't take him seriously, and you know I certainly can't. You know, again, it's just with Del Rio, it's like the same stuff, and you know, as a result, Sheamus's reign as world champion, you know, has seemed to be a, you know, kind of floundering. Really been treading water, I think, for a while. And it seems like it may continue to tread water, especially with someone like Orton just kind of being in the mix, but not really doing anything big. And kind of same with Ziggler too. He's got his Money in the Bank briefcase, but you know, it's nothing, you know, that important really seems to be happening with him right now until he uses it. So I mean, that's that. I really think that they made a mistake by having Del Rio. You know, I really don't think it's going to help, you know, the story at all, by dragging him out even more. And again, Sheamus and Orton, I think, would have, you know, helped make a bigger match at Night of Champions. More possibilities creatively again. And with the more I see of Del Rio, the more I want Wade Barrett to come back, you know, as soon as he can, because I think there's a good push in store for him. And I would definitely like seeing him in the picture replacing a guy like Del Rio. It's as simple as that. Might sound like deja vu is what I have to say about Del Rio, but it seems like that's what WWE's given us. Some more deja vu and just some of the same old stuff that just really, I don't think, is helping SmackDown at all. And in some cases, Raw and pay-per-view matches. Alright, next, going to move on to, what I have to talk about now with CM Punk, Cena, and, in the case of, tonight's Raw, Jerry Lawler. What it appears, tonight, I think was more centered on maybe CM Punk kind of settling this, maybe not settling is the word, but, kind of, bringing a climax to this whole Jerry Lawler and, CM Punk kind of side feud with him, which kind of began on the 1000th episode of Raw, as we've heard. The way I look at it, last week was CM Punk's, way of solidifying himself as, okay, now he's definitely here. And this week, after the whole match, the promo with Lawler, and what happened after the main event match, I think this was more of like okay, CM Punk is a heel that is for real here, and it's going to be intense, and ruthless, however you want to put it. But basically, I guess tonight, is appropriate maybe to kind of, maybe this is a way of having Jerry Lawler have off for a little, on one hand, non-kayfabe hand, but, this whole Jerry Lawler thing, with CM Punk, hopefully now it kind of, the focus shifts back more on CM. Well, logically, that's what's going to happen next week on Raw. The focus is going to shift back more on CM Punk and Cena. I think this week was, kind of to get more of the Jerry Lawler and CM Punk thing out of the way. And, the steel cage match and what happened after, I think was a decent way to do that. Obviously, maybe, people watching already know this, but those polls, those Twitter polls to the side of things, really, I do not think at all that those are real results. Maybe, they had the steel cage hanging high above the ring already, and, with what they had seen Punk do at the end, they definitely had a plan in mind, and simply that's what they did. And they probably kind of goofed with they goofed with the votings like that, so, I don't really think there's a point in voting at all anyways, but, it was voted for, steel cage match, with Jerry Lawler, which, I guess was mediocre. We saw blood, which was interesting, blood on CM Punk, but ultimately this turned into, Jerry Lawler tapping out, mediocre match, but it's Jerry Lawler, what do you expect? He's in the 60s now, and this was kind of just a way to wrap things up, I guess, sort of, between CM Punk and Jerry Lawler for the meantime, so the focus can go back on Cena then, who, had, on the other hand, a pretty much a throwaway match against The Miz, which of course ended with, the 5 moves of doom. I know that maybe it sounds cliche to say, but, whatever you want to call it, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, pretty much a pointless, thrown together match there. Nothing new, nothing really great about that. But after the match with CM Punk, CM Punk to further solidify himself as a heel. He went under the ring. He got chain and lock. Kind of interesting how that points at chain gang Cena there, but he took that and he locked the door of the steel cage together, and he held Lawler hostage. Now, I mean, the silly thing is they could have logically just raised the cage now, with the way he's holding Lawler there and threatening him to say that CM Punk's the best in the world, and punch, and he starts punching him and throwing elbows at him until he would say it. And, logically they could have raised the cage, which, but I tried not to think about that too much, because again, it's the story. They're gonna do what they want to do, and so yeah, I mean, he continues to beat on Jerry Lawler, kind of just getting more heel heat. If anything, I mean, this is another week where really trying to get some more heat to CM Punk further solidify himself as a heel. And then of course, then John Cena comes, running out like mid-aged woman on Supermarket Sweep back in the 90s. He comes running out. He wants to stop all this. He tells the guys, I don't know what else you want to call them, but the guys to raise the cage, and then they start doing that, then they start having some common sense and raising it, and Cena being the hero as usual, then gets in the ring, tries to help Jerry Lawler, be right there for Jerry Lawler. CM Punk just slithers out of the ring. Yeah, I mean, kind of what you would expect from Cena there. And seeing more of a sadistic characteristic coming out of CM Punk here. A little interesting. Something maybe a little more Randy Orton-esque from his heel run a few years ago. As my thoughts on this, I guess it was necessary to kind of do something like this with Punk and Jerry Lawler, get some more heat, but I'm hoping now they kind of get down more to business here with Cena and CM Punk. Personally, what I want to see, to make this feud, which could quite possibly last until The Rock faces one, until the Royal Rumble rolls around. To make this feud great, we need to start seeing more CM Punk shoot promos. I know a lot of CM Punk fans who are behind CM Punk, regardless of how much of a heel they make him. But I bet a lot of you guys would agree. Personally, his shoot promos of, last year at this time too. I mean, they were good, and I really, I really saw myself getting behind CM Punk last year when he was kind of feuding with John Cena and whatnot, because you know, it's as if there were no limitations on him, really. WWE, I mean, the thing with this whole story is, yeah, WWE can have him attack Lawler sadistically. They could have CM Punk just be, you know, another heel, just who beats people up and, you know, just kind of like they made Lawler. I mean, who complains, demands respect and all this, and wants people to say that he's the best in the world and whatnot. I mean, to a point, that's alright. But what would really make this feud, you know, golden is if they have CM Punk, you know, if CM Punk backs up his actions a little bit. If say he, you know, if he pointed out how John Cena could not get away with something like this. I mean, something that, you know, in a sense breaks kayfabe, but doesn't necessarily. Something that, you know, some people, the reasons they criticize John Cena, you know, his character, they could kind of work that into the story without it, you know, breaking kayfabe. You know, without bringing in WWE writers and WWE, you know, Vince not wanting Cena to be a heel and change his character. They could bring that into play, I think. I really would hope that they do that. They could have, you know, CM Punk saying how Cena couldn't do that, but CM Punk, you know, can, and the fans that are behind him won't care, because they appreciate his, you know, his free will, you know, or have something like that along those lines. Whereas Cena, the character, it's as if he's, you know, he's like he can't, you know, it's all about the T-shirt and the hat and, you know, C-Nation, you know. Whereas CM Punk, you know, is the champion and whatnot, and he can get away with doing that stuff and, you know, feel all right about it. And something like that. To me, that would strengthen the feud instead of making, you know, another case of, you know, demanding respect. And I think they should really go with the whole idea that was brought up with CM Punk taking a back seat to Cena, which is also kind of along the lines of, you know, something that's like part breaking kayfabe in a sense, if you want, you know, but not necessarily. They go along those lines, taking a back seat to Cena, but CM, you know, and CM Punk's character, John Cena's character, how he's kind of nailed down to being this good guy, and, you know, that kind of thing. They could work that in and make it good. Especially in the coming months. I've mentioned this before, but, you know, I'm not going to go into great detail, but the 380-day reign that they said how, you know, that John Cena said how he had, they could work that into what could lead up to, you know, quite a conclusion of 2012, you know, in the WWE on Raw. If they have, you know, a match where if Cena wins and ends CM Punk's reign, then, then Cena gains the title, and even though I personally want CM Punk to be the guy that faces The Rock next. But, you know, CM Punk wins, he breaks John Cena's, personal record for, 380-day reign. If he loses, then Cena puts a halt to CM Punk's reign before he surpasses Cena's reign. Something like that, I think, would really be cool. And I'd like them to work this whole, kind of what they brought up last week, but some of what I brought up with, Cena's character, how he's kind of stuck being, that good guy, baby face. They could work that into this story, that would be great, and if it could lead up to something like, like that, that'd be great also. Maybe Cena, maybe they're gonna have Cena win. I'm not totally in favor of that, but it's a you never know. But either way, I wouldn't see CM Punk be the one to face The Rock. It's basically kind of wraps up what I'm talking about here. But yeah, from here, next week, good shoot promo or something, like, kind of regarding what I was talking about, with the difference between CM Punk's, free will kind of character and Cena's, kind of nailed down character. CM Punk would kind of call him out on that, and, or something also with how he's been taking a back seat, as he said, last week. That'd be cool. I'm just hoping that they don't kind of hold back on CM Punk. Tell him this is what you say. Hopefully they kind of loosen up with CM Punk once again, like they did, last year, because certainly it makes for better content, more interesting stuff, certainly. It's as simple as that. Don't really have much more to say on that. We just have to stay tuned for that next week. See what happens with them. Alright, and also kind of close things down here. There's Triple H with his, possible retirement promo there. Coming out in the cast on his left arm again. This time not as robotic of, high-tech looking of an arm cast, but, personally, this really I don't think is the end of Triple H wrestling. But like you said, it's perhaps a crossroad. But I think in some way they're going to work in a rematch. But maybe down the line a little bit. But there's still more to be seen. Still more to be said from Triple H, and we'll wait and see. But he got a little emotional, towards the end of it. But I don't quite think this is the end of Triple H wrestling. Some people may have really taken that seriously. There's no signs or anything that this is, Triple H is in a situation like, say Edge was, where it's like, okay, he physically should not wrestle again. Nothing like that, really. So, I don't see any reason that Triple H would quit, or retire from in-ring competition ever again, unless there was some kind of serious situation like what happened with Edge. So, it's all kayfabe, I think, right now. I think it's just their way of, leaving space until, they're going to work, utilize Brock Lesnar again. They don't want to burn through his appearances on his contract too quickly. Still WrestleMania in the horizon, so most likely, everything points at a Triple H Lesnar rematch, perhaps. But we'll see. Simple as that. We'll just have to wait and see, because it seems they're just gonna, it's gonna be a little while until maybe we see Triple H or Brock Lesnar again. hear from either of them. And, you know, like they said, Triple H is going to think about it, and you know, because his arm, once his arm heals up and stuff, you know, it could be a whole different game, no pun intended. You know, I mean, you wonder how, you know, with what he's said and all, and considering that Lesnar shouldn't lose if he's going to face Undertaker at WrestleMania. Logically, you know, they'd have Lesnar beat Triple H if they faced again, I think. Because again, if logic points to him facing the Undertaker at WrestleMania, you'd want to make him look strong. Undertaker beat Triple H the past, you know, 2 WrestleManias. If Lesnar beat Triple H twice, you know, it seems to make sense to me. But again, I'm not totally in favor of the Lesnar Triple H rematch. And you know, like I said, I don't just quite know how they're gonna make it, you know, how it'll make sense. So, but I guess we'll wait and see next time we hear from, from Triple H again, or maybe Shawn Michaels will be live again in the coming weeks, and you know, something like that. And you know, maybe because I mean, with the whole, you know, thing with what Paul Heyman said last week about Brock Lesnar being the new King of Kings, and you know, it seems like there's some unfinished business there. But again, I don't know if there's a lot of logic in Lesnar losing to Triple H. You know, if they plan on having him face The Undertaker at WrestleMania, it's as simple as that. But, you know, WWE may work something out, and they come up with something better than what we can think of at this point. But yeah, I mean, we'll wait and see with all that as far as everything goes. It's basically it. A lot of waiting and seeing. Right now it feels like, you know, this Raw, it seemed like a pretty transitional Raw. You know, now Triple H kind of speaking on the matter, you know, the aftermath, and you know, and then CM Punk kind of settling things, you know, beating Jerry Lawler up, you know, pretty bad and whatnot. So I mean, it seemed like a pretty transitional Raw this week. You know, not the greatest Raw, certainly. Definitely felt like it was missing some talent. Big Show absent. Rey Mysterio absent. Of course, Chris Jericho's gone now. So this Raw, you know, Lesnar, of course, is out of the picture again. So this Raw, you know, unfortunately felt like it was lacking a bit. But again, I mean, it seems like it was kind of transitional. So I think in the coming next couple of Raws, they're going to start focusing more on Night of Champions. So that's a good, I guess, in a sense, that might make for better episodes, I hope, in the coming weeks. But we'll just have to wait and see, and stay tuned for those. And also stay tuned for SmackDown this week. Alright, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of TW Wrestling Talk. Thank you for watching, and I invite you to ask any questions. If you want me to cover anything, go right ahead. If you do send in questions, you know, I may use, you know, your name, you know, your YouTube account name, you know, just kind of to honor you for sending the question. If you don't want your YouTube name, username honored, just say anonymously, you know, if you want something answered anonymously, I can can sure do that. But yeah, I'd love to answer any random questions regarding what's going on in WWE, about about anything going on. All right, that'll do it. I have nothing more. Thanks again for watching. Stay tuned.